Well, the Claire Obscure Expedition 33 awards wrapped up for 2025, and sure enough, we did see a lot of new game announcements for Switch and Switch 2. There were definitely a lot of missing Switch 2 logos though, and in the back half of this video, I will unpack my thoughts and theories around why that is, and also where we are in terms of getting caught up with the mainstream third-party releases, because yeah, we're missing some big games that were here. But first, I want to go through everything that was officially confirmed and revealed for Switch 1 and or 2 and highlight some of the bigger announcements for me personally. Mega Man was my big show stealer, but this show also did kind of leave me missing that big pop, that big wow reveal. So I kind of want to share my overall thoughts on the presentation as well. It was 3.5 hours long, so I do not blame you if you didn't have the time to watch it. Shout outs to everybody that came through the live stream and watched it live with me, but we are going to dive right in and first mention Resident Evil Requiem, because it was at this event and the big trailer and the big reveal was that Leon is a playable character. Really cool to see him back, and this was unfortunately something that leaked out online ahead of time. I think it was actually the PlayStation Network logo or something for the game had Leon in the logo, and so somebody jumped the gun over at Sony. Could have been a bigger reveal for me if I didn't already know it was coming, but it was still cool to see the confirmation. And of course, we know that this is Capcom really showing up in a big way for the Switch too. I mean, they are going all in with their multi-platform approach. The RE engine, they have said in interviews, is what kind of makes that possible for them, because the scalability of that engine, and they were able to get Requiem up and running very quick and effectively on the Switch 2. So it'll be their day and date. This is a big 2026 release. I will definitely have my eyes on this one and likely pick it up right at launch and cover it on the channel with you guys. So Leon being playable definitely adds a lot in this game in my eyes personally, and it was a nice little update to a game we know to look out for in 2026. Now from there, Pragmata, that I did not have on my bingo card to head to Nintendo Switch 2, did get the confirmation that it will be coming to Nintendo Switch 2. And the biggest thing, with a day and date release on April 24th, 2026. Now, this game's getting a demo on all platforms. The Steam demo was out that day, so it made me think maybe the Switch 2 demo is included in that. No, unfortunately, Switch 2 and console demos will be available at a later time. But this is a really interesting looking game. If you like a over-the-top crazy sci-fi story elements with almost like a kind of a Death Stranding type of element to the storytelling, it seems like, with the fact that you're in this spacesuit in a mysterious like post-apocalyptic looking world, you're protecting like a small child. I don't know, it had some tie-overs to Death Stranding 2 in my opinion, but I am excited to see more of the gameplay loop for this game, because there was some really interesting combat sequencing we saw as well, where like time slowed down and you had to go through a little puzzle on screen to block the attack of oncoming enemies. So I don't know exactly how I feel about that yet. I definitely need to see it more in real time, more uninterrupted, because it's pretty clear that whenever you go to attack enemies, that a similar menu pops up, and that's how you're basically both defending and actually doing your combat. So interesting and different system for sure, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But cool to see that day and date confirmed for a Switch 2 launch. Lego Batman: The Legacy of the Dark Knight did get an updated trailer and a release date of May 29th, 2026, which is also day and date for Switch 2. This one, it just looks like the best type of fit for the Lego universe. I'm not typically the biggest Lego fan out there, but I think kind of the Lego humor mixed into the Batman Dark Knight era of storytelling is going to go really nicely. All the big villains are here with Joker and Bane and everybody else. I mean, it's just gonna, I think this is gonna be kind of a surprising game as far as its quality, and it's definitely one that's on my list to check out since it was originally revealed. And so nice to see a more updated trailer going over it here. And then we did get the confirmation that Phasmophobia will be coming to the Switch 2 in 2026. This was a game that came out in 2020 originally, but it's an acclaimed like co-op horror survival style game. And you know, I don't have any hands-on time with this game at all, and I actually didn't know about what it was whenever it was being revealed. So it does seem to have a cult following online. It definitely has a hardcore fan base, and it was not a game that was available on Switch or Switch 2, and it will just be coming to Switch 2 only. But we did get that confirmation that yes, in 2026 we will indeed see that make it over. We got an updated look at 007 First Light with Lenny Kravitz as Bama, which is like one of these big crazy drug overlord type of bad guy villains within the game. Not a ton of gameplay or anything to even really call out that we haven't really seen too much of before. They're kind of here recently in the First Light marketing and trailers and stuff. They've been doing small snippets to show us things like the Aston Martin car last time around. Now we got a quick look at one of the main villains, and we know this is going to be one of the big third-party releases for Switch 2 as well in 2026, but just a quick trailer and update for it. Then we got the announcement that Xbox is indeed bringing South of Midnight to Switch 2 in 2026, which this is actually a really cool announcement, kind of out of left field. I didn't necessarily expect to see this. Of course, we know Xbox is going aggressively multi-platform, but this game, from the trailers and gameplay I've seen of it so far, does look really interesting. It looks like it may have like a kind of a sleeper story that unfolds that kind of hooks you in as the game goes along, and it has a different enough art style and animation style that, you know, it's nice to see a game that does something different and not the same. Whenever you sit through a 3.5 hour presentation of the Game Awards, you realize how many of these games kind of start ending up looking like the same type of core projects at the end of the day. At least, you know, some of them, and especially if it's a first person shooter, you know kind of already what the game and world is going to look like. So this one definitely has a different style to it, but they announced that in spring of 2026, not an exact release date, but spring of 2026, it will be coming to both Switch 2 and PlayStation 5, and this will be another one I will kind of have my eye on as we get closer to its ultimate launch. Orbitals is actually a Switch 2 exclusive that was here at this event, and it is confirmed for 2026. I really liked the 90s/early 2000s anime style visuals of this game. It definitely has that, you know, It Takes Two/split fiction couch co-op type of feeling to it. That's definitely what the game's built around, is playing it all through co-op. In fact, I think that may be the only way you can actually play through the game and the story and everything. Visuals is one of the things that made this game really stand apart from a lot of the other trailers we saw. As mentioned, it looks very different. It looks very unique. I personally like to see studios trying new things in different styles and environments, and it's described as an intergalactic puzzle adventure action game. So, you know, I'm here for it. I probably will check this one out when it does drop. We just have the 2026 splash screen, no official date, so it may be a little while before we actually get a final launch date, but it was cool to see a Switch 2 exclusive game announced at this event alongside of everything else we saw. From there, we have Out of Words, which is an interesting claymation type of game that will be headed to Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026. No official release date for it either, but just a, you know, mainly cutscene based trailer. Then we got some gameplay towards the end of it, and it looks like a co-op platformer adventure where you can explore, you know, kind of a crazy, colorful world in a claymation animation style. I don't know if this one's going to do it for me or not. It didn't like do a whole lot to sell me on it in the trailer, but nonetheless, another game that will be headed to Switch 2 in 2026. Warframe did also get a new updated trailer. This is of course available on Switch 1 right now. It is getting a Switch 2 version sometime in 2026, and Warframe, it's not a franchise that I've ever really dove into. Don't have much to say about it. Lots of you know, nice looking cutscenes and visuals and things like that, but nonetheless a quick update for it. And then Nintendo was only there with the Mario movie trailer, just to get that out of the way. I'm saving kind of my biggest hype announcement for the very last one for the Switch 2. But yeah, Nintendo only there for a quick 30-second or less teaser for the Mario Galaxy movie. It wasn't like really enough of a trailer to even feel like it was there, to be honest with you. It was cool to get another snippet at the footage, but yes, Nintendo very much skipped up the Game Awards as far as big announcements and participating in it. Once again, as I pretty much expected them to. I did kind of feel like because we were in the Switch 2 launch year and we saw them do stuff around the launch of the Switch 1 more involved with the Game Awards, maybe there was some kind of long shot of a chance, but no, once again, from a first-party Nintendo perspective, they very much skipped up this event. Now, the big game for me personally, that was the highlight of this event overall, was the fact that since 2018, we have not had a new Mega Man game, and we now have one officially headed to the Nintendo Switch 2 and Switch, mind you, but this is not out until 2027. But Mega Man Dual Override is very much Mega Man 12. I mean, if you look at it, it doesn't look like even though they're going with like a name for the title this time entirely instead of a number, this looks like Mega Man 12, and it's just nice to see Capcom remember the Blue Bomber again, not just leave him in limbo forever. There is definitely a part of me that wanted to see the next Mega Man project be something in the X world, you know, bring back Mega Man X and do either a reboot, like remake of maybe the 1 through 3 all in one package, and then make some kind of futuristic X installment, you know, with different gameplay mechanics or really modernized gameplay mechanics. I don't know. This still looks like just more Mega Man at its core, which is fine with me. I definitely wanted to see something new from the Blue Bomber, and we got it here. It is a little bit disappointing that it's as far out as 2027, because I do feel like, you know, this would have been the type of announcement that makes sense to be out a little bit sooner from when you reveal it. But hey, I'm not going to complain. We definitely have not seen anything in the way of new Mega Man support as of recently, and now we know to at least look forward to Dual Override in 2027. I'm hoping an earlier in the year release rather than later. And that is kind of where the Switch 2 conversation fell off a cliff, because while we got a lot of other major AAA third-party game announcements, many of them did not have Switch 2 logos at the end of it. And it doesn't mean they're not coming, but it is creating this interesting scenario where, as Nintendo Switch 2 fans, if you only own that console and you don't pick up a PS5 or Series X or S to go alongside of it, when are we going to get caught up with some of these mainline major AAA releases from other major studios, and when is it coming day and date with Nintendo? Well, I think it's really going to be up to each individual developer and publisher at this point, because we did have this lag of a dev kit situation. So let's quickly mention Tomb Raider's getting 2 games. Okay, it's getting one in 2026 and one in 2027. Legacy of Atlantis comes in 2026 and Catalyst comes in 2027. Now, Legacy of Atlantis seems to be kind of like probably the new engine and character model for Lara Croft and everything. And to be fair, I mean, great character model, good look at the kind of combat and some of the platforming and adventure and storytelling that will be within this game. It looks like an excellent game and a franchise that, you know, it makes sense to be on Nintendo Switch 2, but it's not there. So is this a dev kit situation where the studios didn't get the dev kit soon enough to start on the actual development of this game, so they're not ready to announce it for Switch 2 yet? Yes, that can be a possibility, but it is kind of just curious that we are seeing a lot of different major game releases announced and no Switch 2 version confirmed yet. There is definitely a conversation to be had about the level of optimization it takes to get some of these games to run in handheld mode on Switch 2, where it is definitely going to be more of a challenge to get something running on Switch 2 handheld mode at an acceptable frame rate and resolution compared to something like a Series S, and a lot of these games are targeting the Series S as the lowest spec piece of hardware. So yes, you do have that realistic conversation in there as well, but I do think a lot of these games will end up coming to Switch 2, but I think that this also reflects on Nintendo's decision for kind of not to just opening up the floodgates for developers to get dev kits right away. We saw these reports that there was a 3-phase launch plan for Switch 2 games, and the phase 1 was just select partners being there with dev kits day 1, and Nintendo really wanting to put certain third-party games that we've been waiting for this whole time on a pedestal, such as the Cyberpunk 2077 release, where it's a big part of their marketing. Elden Ring being the same thing. Granted, that's been delayed to 2026. It's a big launch window game for Nintendo. They chose to provide dev kits to FromSoft to obviously not only continue to develop Duskbloods, but have the optimization process for Elden Ring take place. I think that that's some of the era that we are still in the Switch 2, but I hope that we do actually get to a point where across the board, when there's a new Star Wars Galactic Racer announced, you know, and it's a pod racing game. Well, that's not exactly pod racing, but it's just a racing Star Wars game. Like, you want to see stuff like that confirmed for Nintendo, not to mention Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic, another massive announcement at the showcase. It's quite a ways out from the looks of it, because we didn't get any year or timeline or anything, and it's clearly going to be a taxing game when it comes to visuals, but no confirmation that this will ever head to Switch 2. And that is definitely a frustrating thing to see continue to happen at these mainstream gaming events when we are, as you know, we're not super far into the generation, but you feel like we should be at a point now where the Switch 2's been out long enough that we should see more day and date announcements for the third party stuff. And it still seems to be a case by case basis on whether or not the teams choose to move their game to the Switch 2. And there is also a reality that some of these studios might wait to see the Switch 2 actually hit like 20 or 30 million units and then say, okay, well, it's got enough of an install base, let's now start to port the game. So I'm hopeful that we still get a lot of these major third-party announcements included in the Switch 2 conversation later on into their development. Might not be day and date, might take more time, but nonetheless, still frustrating watching this as a Nintendo fan, seeing like only half of the games announced here had the Switch 2 logo, if not less. So, you know, overall, the award show, it was good. It was cool to see Claire Obscure win like literally everything. I mean, it did get a little bit awkward towards the end where it's literally like, okay, it's them again, it's them again, it's them again. But I do think that while there's, you know, people that will say the game is overhyped online and everything, for me personally, it deserves every award it won and then some. It's that good of a game. I definitely recommend you guys to all check it out if you haven't already. And hopefully we get it ported to the Switch 2 at some point in the near future, because that is in the rumor mill conversation. And I do think it's a question of when, not if. But nonetheless, you know, long show. I do feel like the pacing was really good towards the beginning. It definitely started to kind of fall off and lost my interest towards like the back half of the show, but it brought me back in with Mega Man. And then we got a show closer with some new arena shooter that I could not care less about, to be honest. If you guys enjoy those type of games, that's great. That's not my jam. I don't care if that game exists or not. That was the show closer. So it did feel like it was missing like a giant wow announcement for me. Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic is like an exciting one to look forward to in the future, but you just don't know how far out it is. It reminded me of that Star Wars Eclipse trailer we saw years and years back, and we still have no clue where that game is. So you get the idea. It might be a while before we see some of this stuff come to fruition, but let me know in the comments down below what, if anything, you were hyped for personally from the Game Awards 2025. Did you walk away from this show with more to be desired? Were there any big hit moments for you personally that you really enjoyed the trailer and gameplay of new things that we saw there? And finally, what's your take on the Switch 2 port situation and a lot of these games still missing Switch 2 logos at the end of their trailers? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.